I have been waiting for this program for weeks now, and I'm very happy to introduce two rangers from the Midpeninsula Open Space Preserves, Regional Open Space Preserves. And they are going to talk about what the preserves offer us in terms of wildlife and in the environment, and what they do to protect the environment. Our speakers today are Alex Hapka. Alex has been a ranger with Midpen for 15 years, and he spent the last 5 years as a lead ranger training other rangers. We also have Ranger Andrew Smith, who has been a ranger for 5 years, or almost 5 years, and he's also the proud grandson of a former National Park Services ranger at Yosemite. So please welcome Alex and Andrew.
Thanks, Lisa, and thank you to the Saratoga Library for hosting us today. So as Lisa said, we're from Midpeninsula Regional Open Space District. Throughout the presentation, though, you'll be hearing us refer to it as Midpen, a lot less of a mouthful. So today, my partner and I will be presenting on connecting with nature to build resiliency. A little bit about myself, as Lisa said, I've been here almost 5 years. I'm currently stationed at the Foothills Field Office based in Rancho San Antonio Open Space Preserve in Los Altos. Before becoming a ranger, I actually worked in tech. So I did a pretty big career jump, and a lot of it was inspired by my grandfather, who worked in Yosemite as a seasonal park ranger in the backcountry on horseback. So I'm very excited to be here today, and I'll pass it over to my partner, Alex.
Thank you. My name is Alexander Hapke. I've been a ranger with the district for over 15 years now, and the last 5 years as a lead ranger, where I've trained 15 rangers that are working for the district. I have worked in all district patrol areas. Spent most of my time out of the Skyline field office where I am now, but I've also patrolled in the Foothills area and the South area. And just a little history on me is when I was in college trying to figure out what college major I was going to take, I hiked the John Muir Trail and helped me decide that I wanted to be a park ranger, work outside. I have all the benefits of being a park ranger. So I got a degree in forestry at Cal Poly. And then shortly after graduating college, I went through the hiring process with the district after a job fell through with the Forest Service, but I'm glad where I ended up. And so I truly love my job, I love being a ranger, and I love working at the district at Midpen. Next slide.
Right, so a little bit about Midpen. So we are a public agency. We're actually a California special district. The district was created in 1972. So we're in our 50th year, which is pretty exciting. And we were created by a grassroots voter initiative. We have an elected board of 7 directors. The voter initiative was really started to preserve a green belt within the Santa Cruz Mountains, mainly in the peninsula. In order to better protect our green space. The people that originally kicked off this voter initiative saw the Bay Area as a booming place and wanted to get a head start on protecting public land. So we're funded primarily through property tax throughout our different wards. We have 26 different preserves located in Santa Clara, San Mateo, and Santa Cruz counties. We protect more than 65,000 acres, and we have about 250 miles of trails. Our preserves are open to the public. They are free, and they are open year-round. Our main office is located in Los Altos. We have different field offices where our field staff, primarily our maintenance and patrol rangers, are stationed out of. As I said, I'm out of the Foothills field office in Rancho San Antonio. We have another office in Campbell that patrols our southern area, most notably the Mount Umunum area and that whole range. We have an office where Alex is located on Highway 35, Skyline. And then we opened up pretty recently a coastal office in La Honda, California, for those that are familiar, out in San Mateo. We have approximately 180 employees. Some of those are stationed in the field and then some in our admin offices. And every year we get approximately 1,000 volunteers, which are really crucial to helping to preserve and continually progress our mission to protect and preserve.
So the primary district mission is to acquire a regional greenbelt of open space land into perpetuity, protect and restore the natural environment, and provide opportunities for ecologically sensitive public enjoyment and education. So our missions can be summed up in 5 words: preserve, protect, restore, educate, and enjoy. And the Conservation International has identified that within the district, there are 25, or within the 25 global biodiversity hotspots, that the district area makes up 0.2%, correction, those places make up 0.2% of Earth's land surface, yet harbor 9% of all endemic species. And those are species found nowhere else. And the California Floristic Province, which is from Oregon to Baja, is the only hotspot in the US with 6,717 known species and 28.5% at risk of extinction. And so the open space preserves are generally kept in a natural condition in order to best protect the environment and wildlife habitat, and are developed with only the amenities needed to provide low intensity recreation. And improvements may include paved or graveled parking areas, vault restrooms, signed trails for hiking, bicycling, and equestrian and dog use, and an occasional picnic table. Next slide.
All right, so here is a map of the Midpen jurisdiction and our open space preserves. So everything in dark green is a Midpen preserve. So as you can see, we stretch anywhere from San Carlos down to Los Altos, from the San Mateo coast to the San Francisco Bay, and the foothills in between. So as I said earlier, we have 26 different preserves, about 65,000 acres across 3 jurisdictions. And it's important to note as well that there's a lot of green in between Midpen preserves, which is really one of the main reasons that Midpen was founded, to try to protect a green belt along with adjacent agencies, anywhere from Santa Clara County Parks to San Mateo County Parks to state parks, providing for a continuous green belt for animals and plants to really thrive in the Santa Cruz and Peninsula mountain range. So for more information about each of these different locations, you can check out our website, openspace.org. On there, you can get in-depth information about each of the preserves shown. You can find out directions, parking, activities to participate in, and so much more.
So the rangers wear many hats. We have many jobs. And among those jobs primarily are law enforcement, emergency medical response, wildland firefighting, basic trail and park maintenance, resource management, and education and interpretation. So looking at just a few of those things now, law enforcement, we patrol assigned areas. Rangers are responsible for patrolling multiple preserves within their assigned areas, where we enforce state and local laws. District rangers are all peace officers, and primarily we deal with our own district ordinance rules set forth by the board, but we also do enforce other local laws, counties, the 3 counties that we fall within, as well as state laws. Maintenance tasks include maintaining signs, fences, and trails. Signs range from regulatory signs that visitors will see at the beginning of any trail hike or bike that they take. At every trail intersection are directional signs so that you know how far it will be to the next intersection and hopefully prevent people from getting lost. We also maintain fence lines and the trails that everyone uses. Fence lines indicate district property boundaries and make sure that you know when you're on the district preserve. And then we also actually probably spend more time on the trails in winter where we use tools to make sure water runs off the trail instead of running down the trail. So you have a nice surface to go hike, bike, and ride your horse and take your dogs out where those activities are allowed. Additionally, we do resource management where we identify and remove invasive species. And those could include things like French broom, and there are many thistles that we pull, yellow star thistle, purple star, bull thistle, and usually rangers will do small projects that take them half hour to an hour or work in a small area to remove those items, those invasive species, so that we're out in the preserves assisting with the resource management work. And Andrew will cover emergency response, wildland firefighting, and interpretation.
Thanks, Alex. So emergency medical response. So all rangers at baseline are trained in emergency medical response. They hold the EMR certification. In addition to that, they also hold CPR. We do have some EMTs on staff. Essentially, we're here to keep the visitors safe. So we're the front line and the first responders to any sort of medical emergency happening within our land. That could be twisted ankles, broken bones, you name it, we see it. In addition, we are wildland firefighters. We all hold the basic federal red card for wildland firefighting, which means that we're trained to fight fire on all district lands. And we've even been involved in bigger fires, most notably the CZU complex fire in 2020 that was in San Mateo and Santa Cruz County. Our district rangers were on the front lines with CAL FIRE and many other agencies fighting the fire and trying to protect land and structure. Finally, education and interpretation. All rangers are certified interpretive guides with the Nationwide Interpretation Association, which means that, oftentimes you'll see rangers leading programs. You can find us in preserves leading guided activities, hosting tabling events, and just roving around and educating about all of the plants and animals and everything in the preserve.
So as I described, rangers do law enforcement, and our goal is to protect the flora and the fauna, the natural resources in the preserves. And as part of that activity, we both interpret and enforce, and we want to ensure the safe and proper use of district lands. Like I said, primarily district ordinance. So when we're out in the preserves, we're contacting people usually for minor violations like having their dogs off leash, or dogs in areas where they're not supposed to be, or bicycles riding where they're not supposed to be. And then some closed areas that we want to protect the resource and prevent public access, whether for sensitive habitats or because the area is hazardous. And an example of each of a sensitive habitat would be the Tafoni Formation in El Corte de Madera Creek Open Space Preserve, where just the mere touching of the surface of those rocks can increase the deterioration of the natural feature. And then it has a hazardous area. Good example would be the old Alma College buildings at Bear Creek Redwoods, where the structures themselves were not safe, and therefore we didn't want the public going in or near them. So rangers patrol by foot, on bicycle, by gas and electric, newly electric motorcycles, ATVs, and four-wheel drive trucks. And when we're out there, our goal is to gain voluntary compliance. We want to make sure that folks follow the rules, and we will issue verbal warnings, maybe written warnings, and then when necessary, issue citations to make sure that folks follow the rules. Next slide.
All right, so along the lines of protecting flora and fauna, Midpen, as Alex pointed out earlier, is really a really cool bio hotspot. We've got everything from bay wetlands on the San Francisco Bay to redwood forests, like in Bear Creek Redwoods, coastal grasslands, and they all host an incredible amount of life. We've got everything from coyotes, mountain lions, badgers, newts, snakes, woodpeckers, and so much more, all that call Midpen home. Some really cool projects that we have going on currently regarding mountain lions are working with the UCSC Puma Project. So the goal of this program is to better understand lion movement and behavior throughout Midpen preserves, with the goal being to better understand migratory habits and really reduce the impact that humans and society in urban areas have on pumas. So one of the programs we're working on right now may involve some preserve closures coming up in the next couple years for up to a day or two, 4 at max, where our researchers from the UCSC Puma Project will be coming in to conduct research. Another really awesome project that we have going on right now in conjunction with both public and private entities such as Caltrans, Peninsula Open Space Trust, and many more is the Highway 17 Wildlife Crossing. So currently, Caltrans and some other agencies are working to build an undercrossing near Los Gatos through Highway 17. The main idea behind this is that Highway 17 is really a barrier through the Santa Cruz Mountains, preventing safe migration, feeding, and mating of different wildlife. And in order to reduce the impact on that wildlife and the potential for danger and death, we're building a wildlife undercrossing, meaning that wildlife can safely cross underneath Highway 17 to and from Los Gatos all the way up the peninsula. All right, and one of the hot things right now as we come into spring and there's a little bit of precipitation, at least down where we are in the South Bay, is wildflowers. So wildflowers can be seen throughout the district. Often sunny grassland trail sections are typically the best place to see spring wildflowers. We have a whole host of flowers and it's truly, truly magnificent. The best times for viewing are March, April, and May. So we encourage everyone to come out and see the wildflowers, but to only take photos, and please do not take any flowers. There are field guides for several Midpen preserves that are available on the free iNaturalist app. And really the wildflower viewing taps into the idea that Midpen lands are preserves, not parks, with the main distinction being that we really want to preserve our lands the best we can with minimal impact. So we encourage everyone to not take anything from the preserves, animal or geological or plant-based, and to really enjoy the preserves, but leave them as clean, if not better than we found them. So continuing on that train, remember that when you're in the preserves, you're in the wildlife habitat, you're in their home. We encourage people to get out and bird watch and really engage with nature, but please do not approach, touch, startle, or feed wildlife. That's really important because we want to make sure that wildlife thrives. And that's one of the main reasons that we close half hour after sunset and that we don't open until 30 minutes before sunset. We want to give nature time to thrive and time to really grow. We encourage you to report any unusual wildlife encounters directly to a ranger. It's important that we know what's going on in the preserves and that we're aware of anything unusual having to do with any sort of animal. And one of the biggest things that we encourage is the leave no trace mantra. We want you to pack out what you pack in, any trash, anything of the like, even things like banana peels and apple cores and orange peels. Those are all things that we want to pack out because they're not native to the land that we currently protect. Littering is prohibited, and we will enforce that rule throughout our preserves. And there are limited trash cans that are located, so we encourage you to use them. We even in our dog preserves have dog waste bins that you can put your doggy bags in after you're done using them.
So fire is a fact of life in California, and the district takes actions for your safety. Among the things that we do, we have pumpers on our patrol trucks and a firefighting force where we get an annual training to maintain our skills. On our preserves, we have tenants that run cattle operations that graze more than 10,000 acres a year. We coordinate with local firefighting agencies and neighbors to reduce fuels and have projects that do so. And we've also we'll have the Wildland Fire Resiliency Program, and we'll be resuming some prescribed fire, hopefully at a future, possibly even this year, to reduce fuels. And when we also have an ordinance prohibiting smoking and fires, which we strictly enforce. And the photos you see here are from the August complex fire in 2020, where district staff assisted in preventing the fire from crossing the Old Hall Road in Portola Redwood State Park and San Mateo County Memorial Park and making its way up the ridgeline towards district preserves. Next slide. So for our fire prevention practices, once our roads are drivable, that's after spring and the wet season, we perform extensive vegetation clearing to keep them passable. And that's both the road width trails and what we call single track trails. And that basic clearing is intended to allow passage of a vehicle on the road without scraping through encroaching brush, because the closer vegetation is to vehicles, the more dangerous it would be for both firefighters and potentially neighbors using some preserves as their escape routes, because they live within or nearby a preserve and their primary exit route might be blocked. So that enhanced roadside vegetation management along designated roads is designed to reduce flame intensity, to make the road safe for firefighter access or evacuation routes. And we'll clear between 10 and 30 feet or more, depending on the type of vegetation and expected fire intensity. So basically, the more fuel and the bigger fuels, the bigger the fire. And therefore, we want to keep that limited and small so that the fire is more manageable to deal with. And to do so, we buy specialized equipment to perform vegetation clearing, such as the broom masticator shown in the photograph, which is basically a masticating arm or arm with a masticator off of a tractor to be able to remove that vegetation. And we're also we always look for new machinery to help perform efficient brush clearing, such as remote controlled slope mowers, which is a new device that we use where it does not require an operator to sit in it. It can be operated remotely. Therefore, there's less hazard for our staff to do the work needed. And we want to make sure that we don't start a fire ourselves. So to reduce that risk, we monitor weather conditions and will stop all operations of fuels reduction when there's a risk of ignition based on conditions and wait until those conditions are better. We also work with crews such as CAL FIRE hand crews, contractors, and the Conservation Corps to assist with clearing those fuels, including exotic plants such as broom. And we work with local fire agencies, collaboratively participating in land clearing efforts by suggesting priorities for fuel management work, enforcing their regulatory requirements, and coordinating with other property owners, training their staff how to clear vegetation by working on fuel breaks or implementing grant-funded projects like one just done off of Highway 84 in our Teague Hill Preserve. And prescribed burns will become increasingly important to meet public safety and conservation goals. We actually have experience doing prescribed burns in the past, and hopefully they will resume soon, as it is a good tool and part of controlling vegetation growth and reducing fuels that are out there. And implementing our fire resiliency program will increase Midpen's ability to reduce those fuel loads by 600% to over 2,600 acres per year. Next slide.
All right, so now we're going to jump into some preserve spotlights. So currently I'm based in Rancho San Antonio. I patrol other preserves as well, but this is by far Midpen's most popular preserve. So in this preserve, we have a 165 acre county park in the front part of Rancho San Antonio. This land is actually owned by Santa Clara County Parks, but Midpen manages that land for them. Adjacent and in the backcountry of Rancho San Antonio, we have 3,988 acres of preserve. So in this preserve, we have 25 miles of hiking trails, everything from fairly easy, family-friendly hikes all the way to steep, more experienced backcountry hikes. We've got road width trails, we've got single track trails, open, trails and things in canyons. It's really quite diverse. One of the big highlights of Rancho San Antonio is the Deer Hollow Farm. This farm is located about a mile from the parking lot and is an active working educational farm. We have designated trails for biking and equestrian use. We do not allow dogs, but we encourage you to come out, hike, and use your horses and bike on the trails that are designated for that use. We have vibrant wildlife and plant life. We've got wildflowers. It's very common to see turkeys and deer in the lower parts of Rancho San Antonio. They're not friendly, or they're not shy. They will, be not too far away from you. They will not harm you, and it's really cool to see them. Some other aspects of Rancho, we have a model airplane field in the front part, which is really neat. We're one of the only places in the peninsula area that people can fly front propeller RC airplanes. It's a really fun experience to come out, hang out in the preserve and the parking lot and watch these experienced pilots fly their RC planes. We have first come, first served barbecues that are open year round. The only exception to that is when we have red flag days, which are increased fire danger and poor air quality. We also have plenty of benches and a really nice pathway from the parking lot all the way back to the farm. One of the big things that I like to tell people is we get very crowded, especially on weekends. So the earlier that you can show up to Rancho, the better, because parking gets pretty tricky as the morning and the day goes on.
So I'm going to talk about Los Trancos, actually one of our smaller preserves. And the Los Trancos Open Space Preserve is a 274-acre preserve located above Palo Alto. It's an ideal spot to learn about earthquake geology because the San Andreas Fault Trail, which is one of the longest and most active faults, splits the preserve. And next slide. In the preserve, you will find fresh air scented with pungent bay leaves, sweet grass, and damp woods. You'll see rolling grassland knolls alternating with oak woodlands and cool shaded forest. In the 1960s, the city of Palo Alto ran water and power lines to the area in anticipation of residential development. However, a report at the time detailed the high cost of providing city services to the foothills area, so that stopped a proposed subdivision, and the district acquired most of the property in 1976. So a little on the fault trail, it's an easy 1.5 mile self-guided interpretive trail. That's a good way to get out and see the preserve. It interprets the landscape features associated with the San Andreas Fault, and one can see representations of how the Pacific Plate is heading north while the American Plate heads south. In the preserve, you'll see there's a fence line that's split as if there had been an earthquake and the ground separated, with one part of the fence moving with the Pacific Plate moving north and the other part on the American Plate heading south. And so just to describe that when those plates move, they eventually lead to a snap, and those are what we know as earthquakes. And the San Andreas Fault moves an average of 3/4 of an inch per year on the peninsula. So for open space well-being and your well-being, I think it's important to make time to visit a park or preserve for our mental health, our physical health, and our social health. Time spent outdoors nurtures our well-being, opens our hearts, inspiring our minds and lifting our spirits. It helps us build resiliency. When I think about resiliency, it makes me think how each and every one of us are dealing dealing with stressors in our life, whether COVID, relationship issues, pressures from work or school. We all need a way to relieve that stress. And being out in the open space gives you resiliency. When you're outdoors, it gives you a chance to separate yourself from those stressors. It gives you a chance to smell the fresh air, get your blood pumping in a good way, and being under natural lighting instead of fluorescent lighting in your home or work or school. And if everyone with the ability to get out into the natural environment were to go out for a hike or a bike ride, I think we would all be better off. And it's part of the reason why the preserves exist, and part of the reason why we don't charge an entry fee. We don't want to limit access. We don't want to limit access. And in the Bay Area, we're fortunate to be within such a short distance of the preserves. So we want you to utilize that resource.
So to add to that, we have so many free and low-cost open space activities. We've got nearly 250 miles of open space hiking trails through all different types of environments and all throughout the district. 16 of these preserves have mountain bike trails. A couple important things to note is that e-bikes are not allowed, and you must wear a helmet. And you must stay on designated trails where bikes are allowed. We have 11 preserves that are dog friendly, one of which that I patrol has an off-leash area, which is Pulgas Ridge and San Carlos. We encourage everyone to bring their dogs out. We just ask that you keep your dogs on leash. The only area that is allowed to take them off leash is in Pulgas Ridge, and that you pick up after your dogs. We do have the Black Mountain Backpack Camp, which sits atop Montebello Preserve and is connected also with Rancho San Antonio. This being one of our only paid activities, it's very low cost and a really wonderful way to go out and backpack. Fires are not allowed, but we encourage people to go online and book a permit for that camp and enjoy all it has to offer. We've got dozens of free docent-led hikes. We have a really wonderful docent program with many volunteers that can be found throughout the district. Those can be found on our website, and you can reserve your space for those. We have lots of great volunteer opportunities, everything from resource management, picking thistle, to trail maintenance, and so much more. We also have equestrian trails where people can enjoy horseback riding. We encourage everyone to come out, but please be mindful to not go into any area that's closed. Those areas are closed for a reason. They're not developed for public use, and oftentimes they're for resource protection. Our preserves are open 30 minutes before sunrise and closed 30 minutes after sunset. The goal of that being to give nature its time during the middle of the night to rest. And we encourage everyone to come out. We ask that you be safe when you come out. Make sure you have enough food and water. It's especially key for the warmer months coming up. We encourage people to hike with a buddy, bring a map, know your limitations, and hike without headphones so that you can really enjoy all the surroundings all around you.
So we have two great locations for outdoor education, being the Daniels Nature Center and Deer Hollow Farm. The Daniels Nature Center operating hours are weekend afternoons from April through November. And some of the exhibits and activities there are a 1/2 mile loop trail around Alpine Pond, which is accessible to all ages and abilities. And inside Nature Center is a creative mural and activity featuring pond dwellers and their food chains. There are touchable wildlife skulls and skins, including coyote and skunk, and I think fox. There are picnic tables, restrooms, drinking faucet, and bicycle parking, and those are all available year-round for the tables, restrooms, and drinking water. We also have a live captive bred gopher snake named Twix that is taken from our office down to the Nature Center when it's open. And Andrew will share about Deer Hollow Farm.
Thanks, Alex. So Deer Hollow Farm is located about a mile from the parking lot in Rancho San Antonio. Deer Hollow Farm is collaboratively owned and operated by Midpen, a nonprofit called Friends of Deer Hollow Farm, and the City of Mountain View. Deer Hollow Farm is open Tuesday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Wednesdays from 8 to 1, and it is closed on Mondays. We've got lots of different animals. It's a really great place to get up and close with goats, sheep, chickens, cows, and so much more. We ask that you view only and refrain from touching or feeding the animals. Also, part of Deer Hollow Farm is the old homestead, part of the old ranching operation that used to be in the backcountry of Rancho San Antonio. We have educational centers. And then if you have kids, there are great opportunities for summer camps in the summer. All the info about that can be found out through the City of Mountain View. So additionally, we have lots of guided activities. So if you go to openspace.org /what-to-do/calendar, you can find out all of the different activities that we have to offer throughout the year. All ages and abilities are welcome. Some require reservations, so we encourage you to go online and reserve your spot. There are 100+ free docent-led hikes offered all seasons, weekends, and weekdays by our wonderful docent volunteers.
So we have many opportunities to volunteer with the district, and each year nearly 1,000 volunteers contribute over 20,000 hours preserving, protecting, and promoting open space lands by participating in a variety of ways, such as educating and inspiring visitors, maintaining trails, and removing invasive non-native vegetation. We believe in a holistic approach to volunteerism and view our programs as a mechanism to build resilient and cohesive communities by fostering synergy between people and nature. And a couple of those are volunteer programs, which include Trails and Stewardship Program and the Docent Naturalist Program. And when you volunteer through our Trails and Stewardship programs, your efforts contribute to meaningful projects that are part of Midpen's larger strategic goals. Volunteers in these programs deliver hands-on restoration, assist visitors along the trails, respond to field staff needs, contribute to community service, and increase community awareness through both short and long-term projects. And when you're a docent under the Docent Naturalist Program, docents are long-term volunteers who engage directly with the public. They educate and inspire through interpretive hikes and rides on the trails, hosting visitors on weekends and at a scenic nature center, and conducting field trips for elementary school students. There's a role for everyone in caring for our local landscapes. You can sign up for the projects that fit your schedule at openspace.org. So the future of open space. Long-range planning is key to enhancing our visitors' use and experience while also preserving or restoring our natural resources. Policies and guidelines designed in conjunction with master plans and resource management plans provide a blueprint for future decisions and actions that ensure consistency with our mission to protect and restore the natural environment and provide opportunities for ecologically sensitive public enjoyment and education. And our future includes enhancing wetlands and ponds, creating wildlife corridors, improving ranches and rangelands, ensuring clean water, adding more trails, and opening more preserved land. Throughout 2022, there will be ample opportunities to commemorate past accomplishments, get excited about future projects, and acknowledge many of the people who helped bring Midpen's mission to fruition. Special in-person events and virtual activities all year long include Bayside Family Festival on April 30th at Ravenswood Preserve, Coastside Community Celebration on September 10th at Johnston Ranch, and guided walks, pop-ups, and the Spotted at Midpen Challenge that kicks off in March. Celebrate with us all year long at openspace.org/50-years. And that's our presentation for the day. We're glad to take any questions.
Thank you, Alex and Andrew. That was wonderful. If anybody has questions, please enter them in the chat box. I have a couple of questions. At the beginning of the presentation, Alex, you gave some statistics about the hotspot areas in the preserves and what percentage of endangered species are in these lands. Could you go over that again?
Well, so that information was from the California Floristic Province describing, I don't know it specifically, but that in this area, the Bay Area is a hotspot with 6,717 known species, wildlife species in the area, where 28.5% are at risk of extinction. And my guess is that's based off of urban expansion, loss of habitat, and then additionally from Conservation International, that this is one of the 25 global biodiversity hotspots. And of that, all those hotspots only make up 0.2% of Earth's land surface, yet harbor 9% of all endemic species.
Yeah, that to me was mind blowing. I didn't realize that. Okay. Any questions? Oh, somebody mentions that geocaching is another fun activity that you do.
So yes, we do permit geocaching on our preserves. Any geocache has to be registered, and therefore we know that it's there. Unfortunately, we do not allow just people to place them. It's got to follow through the normal standards for geocaching, but geocaching does occur on district preserves and only in open areas, not enclosed areas.
Okay, and is that run by volunteers, or just anybody can do that, provided they follow the guidelines?
So staff manage it, and then if we find ones that are not registered, we will remove them. However, we welcome geocaching. We think it's a great way to get folks out to explore the preserves. So we are in support of it and do have it on our preserves.
Okay, thank you. A couple people are thanking you for everything that you do and to wish you happy 50th. Another question I have is, what does it take to become a volunteer? Is it just an application? And
so if you, with the different methods, I recommend going to our website, openspace.org. You can see the options that are available to volunteer. If it's a short-term single project, I believe you would register for, let's say you're pulling broom out at Bear Creek. You would register for that project, show up. You'd probably have anywhere from 3 to 5 hours of work, and it's self-paced. You work with a group and you're led by district staff. And then if you're wanting to do more long-term, bigger stuff, you would follow that same process. The same people that would coordinate the smaller projects would get you in touch with the folks who handle the long-term folks, like whether you're doing trail patrol or some other activity, same process to get that info.
okay, and is there like a lower age limit?
Good question. Andrew, do you know of, I don't know of a specific age limit. There might be, depending on the activity. If it's, potentially more hazardous, like removing an old fence line, they might limit to maybe teenage, maybe. Yeah. But then if it's pulling weeds, I think as long as you can operate a weed wrench, we would accept your assistance as a volunteer.
Yeah, and we do a lot of partnerships with a lot of great organizations for volunteer projects. One of them that I've had the pleasure of working with is Latino Outdoors. They've been amazing, and they will organize events and coordinate with our volunteer team and staff and come out and do awesome projects. We also do work with things like the Boy Scouts on Eagle Scout projects. Those can all come through our volunteer channels as well. And we really love all of our volunteer trail patrol. We really encourage it. It's a wonderful way. We try to get out on the trails as much as we can, but we really rely on our visitors to be the eyes and ears in our preserves, to let us know of things like down trees, any sorts of detrimental behaviors occurring out in the preserves, littering, dogs off leash. And you can do that by foot, by bike, or by horse. So we really highly encourage that.
Okay, thank you. And so people can just go on the website to see what opportunities are available at any time?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a question that was directed to me to ask you. Who owned the Los Trancos area before it was acquired by the district?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I believe some of that info is on our website.
And then what happens to the produce or whatever's grown at the Deer Hollow farm?
So at Deer Hollow Farm, we don't have a lot of produce that we generate. We have a pretty small garden. I think a lot of it is just given away to volunteers and members of the public. Through a lot of the year, we do sell the fresh eggs that come from the chickens at Deer Hollow Farm. So we encourage people to come out, and if the eggs are available, you can buy those for really low cost at the farm. We do have 2 mini Jersey cows that are milked, and that's primarily, for demonstration. And then the rest of the animals are just there to live and provide for educational opportunities for visitors.
Okay. And then let's see, one more question that I received was, are gopher snakes endangered?
I don't believe so. But this particular one is basically a rescue, and in my understanding, it was not expected to survive if it was let back out in nature. It might have been injured or was ill, and so Twix actually came after Snickers, who was our first resident gopher snake, yeah. But this, my understanding, they're not a protected species.
Okay. All right. I wish we had more in Saratoga because we have so many gophers. Okay. All right. Well, I don't have any other questions. If anybody has a question, please enter the chat now. We'll stay on for another minute or so. Thank you so much for your time and the presentation. It was very informative. I learned a lot about what you do.
Thank you for hosting us and for the opportunity. And we hope to see all of you out there on the trails and enjoying the preserves.
Are there going to be a lot of activities for the 50th this summer?
They're coming. I'm guessing what is made public on the website is where we want folks to show up and participate in. I know there's lots of stuff going on behind the scenes. They've been planning for at least a year, if not 2. So whatever events that are occurring will be posted well in advance on the website.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. All right. Well, everybody's thanking you for your hard work.
Welcome.
Thank you. So have a great rest of your weekend. And thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.